Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wedding Chat with myself, Dave Ternier from Special Request Weddings out of Manitoba, Canada.
And I'm Jeremy Brech with DJ Jer Events in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Where it is already winter, right? Same as here?
Yeah, but I don't think we hit winter like you hit winter. When you hit winter, you like hit it in the face. Yeah, or it hits you in the face. Hence the picture that you sent me with snowballed face. You didn't even get in a snowball fight, but it looked like you did. So it looked like winter won.
That's funny. Tell you what, just for context to everybody, so Jeremy's talking about this photo that I just sent him of myself cycling 16 kilometers, 10 miles yesterday. It was great. I took a day off today. I was definitely feeling it a little bit after yesterday.
Yeah, I bet.
Anyway.
So we had a really good discussion last time, and if you didn't get a chance, I don't know, does he like timestamp these? Can someone go back and find it before, let's see, what was the date? It was December 4th.
Tell you what, I want to do like all the cool people on YouTube do. John, make this happen. If you click right here, you can check out last week's. Yeah, check out last week's conversation because it's a bit of a segue into what Jeremy was just about to say for today.
Yeah. So last week was a really good conversation, and we did have some people kind of chimed in and gave us some feedback. The biggest discussion we had last time was, how do you know when it's time to grow, or how do you know when it's time to add employees, and what are the steps that you have to take? And we were going to talk about today's discussion in that, but there was so much information there that it's like, okay, we're going to have to do a whole different show. So we told John, we're like, you know what? We got our content for next week. This is going to be great. So today's conversation is, how do you make a living on this? And how much do you charge? How do you, how do you look at your expenses, and how do you figure your value? And I think that's a really big question that all DJs have is, what's the breaking point, or what's the point where you say, you know what, it's time for me to charge more, or you know what, maybe I'm charging too much. And I think you and I can both agree it really comes down to value, because that's what your couples or that's what your client is looking for. Mm-hmm. So I think we're going to talk a lot about value. We're going to talk about perception of our industry and, your market. And one of the things that I hate, Dave, is when people are like, oh, well, I can't do that in my market, or I can't charge that in my market. I mean, you have a population of like 80 people in Canada and in your area. And I mean, you do really well. You're a single op, you're surviving, you're always innovating. You're always kind of doing the next thing. So I think that's going to be one of our big discussions here is, again, when did you know that you're going to quit your job and just focus on this, which I think we discussed a little bit last time, but how do you make a living?
Yeah. And I also want us to touch on, hopefully before today is done, and this might sound like a negative thing to talk about, but I also want us to touch on, before we're done, the very idea that not every actor is going to be a Tom Cruise. Not every DJ is going to make a full-fledged income out of this.
Right.
I mean, when it comes to the performance world, some comedians go on and have a full-time career, but many don't. I was going to say most. That's not entirely true, I don't think.
Yeah.
So I also want us to touch on that, because I don't want anybody watching this to perceive this as Dave and Jared blowing smoke and saying anybody can do anything. I come to realize that's really not true, especially in the performing arts. I mean, what we do is so performance-based, and I think, when we talk about value, I think we're probably going to tie that a little bit to value as a performer as well, and that's a super uncomfortable topic because everybody's number one.
Yeah.
But anyway, so our hope is to touch on that topic as well before we wrap up.
And, I think kind of the progression of this video. So if you're like, man, I don't need to know that, and I don't need to know that, but I want to know about this. I think here's what we're going to kind of put on the agenda. So the first section, we're going to talk about some of the processes or some of the things that you should be doing to add value to your business. Some of the things that you should know to make sure that your business is successful. And I'm talking like bookkeeping. I'm talking, some of these processes.
The fun
and
stuff.
Then, what's that?
The fun stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're going to talk about, how do you rate your value and what is that worth? So we are going to get to price, but that is going to be the cherry on top at the end here. And again, I mean, you can't just raise your rate and say, this is how much I'm going to charge. You have to understand your market. You have to understand a lot of processes to be successful in this. You can't just roll the dice and hope it happens.
Yeah, you have to understand your value relative to everything else that's out there too.
Yeah.
If you're more valuable, you can charge more. If you're less valuable, you can't charge as much. If you offer the same value, guess what? You get to fit in that big, thick part of the curve where everybody else.
Yeah, you get to live in that bell. So let's talk about this. How do you figure out the processes or how do you create value in your business? So I think as us both being business owners, I think one of the biggest things that we've realized is you have to invest first in yourself before you invest in, top of the line speakers, and I'm not saying speakers and lighting is not important. I'm not saying music's not important, but if you're not investing in yourself, you're not going to do anything. Or I should say, you're going to be stagnant. You're going to be stuck in this one position. You're not going to be able to progress the direction that you need to be able to charge more. So let's just talk about, some of the things that you and I have done for personal growth. So why don't you go ahead and get started, and then we can actually talk about how we met during a personal growth experience, and became this amazing friendship that we have. So go ahead, and I'll let you start.
Jeremy and I grew together in part.
It's true.
Yeah, the first point of development, as I think has been mentioned before, was certainly in some performance workshops, which are to this day the most uncomfortable thing I've ever been a part of. And every time I set foot in that environment again, that discomfort remains. And if any of the workshop hosts that through which I've attended workshops are watching this, don't cringe. Keep up the great work. They're some of the most uncomfortable environments in the world, but through that uncomfort is where coming out the other side, I've experienced the most personal growth, because it's allowed me to bring a value proposition to my market that nobody else can even fathom. I mean, I'm sure, Jeremy, you've had people too say, yeah, I'm a DJ, Jeremy. Why can't I get what you get? Well, because you really can't fathom the impact these types of experiences have on you until you've been through them. And so those workshops, those personal growth, be it Marbecca or whatever the case might be, have led to me being able to bring a unique level of service, a value proposition, value prop, that, I just before we started here today, I got off the phone with a girl who has heard about me through some reputation, lived nowhere close to me, but she wants to have a conversation. Well, look, she would have just hired the DJ that's closest to where she lives 4 hours away, unless she had heard about something unique about this Dave Ternier and what he does.
And the thing that you're talking about when you're talking about this very uncomfortable position was you're going to a workshop to make yourself grow. And if you just want to hear yes, 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 and great job, you're doing fantastic, these are not the best option for you.
Right.
And if you're stuck in that situation, then you're not going to grow. You are not going to be able to raise your rates. You're not going to be able to give your client more because you're stuck in your mindset.
Right.
And you're not progressing, which means your market's not progressing, which means your price is not progressing. So I'm glad that you talk about a very uncomfortable situation, because those are the things that make us grow.
They are. And let me, for those who think that's too vague, let me, I guess, give an example of what I mean, or let me give something that maybe helps you understand. Anybody that goes to the gym knows that they only get stronger, by pushing themselves past a breaking point quite often. Mm-hmm. When you're lifting weights or whatever, all of that heavy exercise is actually, microscopically tearing apart the muscles inside your arm, so that in the following few days, they get to grow stronger than they were before. Going to these workshops is very similar. You're going to have the layers peeled back, which might sound counterintuitive, but much like working out does and muscle growth, you peel back those layers, you tweak, you change, and then they grow back together, and you come out this better, stronger, more incredible version of you. I think that's a fair,
that's a perfect analogy. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So it's not fun. No. There are moments of fun, don't get me wrong, but there's lots of it that isn't fun. There's lots of standing there going, oh my God, I'm going to die. I don't know what to do. Stop looking at me, everybody.
Yeah. Or it's, oh no, please don't replay that. No, don't play that again.
Right.
I don't want to see it.
It's awful.
So
it's essential.
So some of the things that Dave's talking about is some of the most impactful ones for myself, and I think you'd agree. The Marbecca workshops have been amazing for me. I haven't taken the announcers workshop, but I heard a lot of people said that that's a great workshop. The master ceremonies, if I were to say, here's the progression, I would recommend doing the master ceremonies first, because I think what that does is it gives you the techniques that you need to get started. Yep. The love story workshop is a great one to help you capture more feeling and more understanding of why we're doing our job.
Yep.
And a lot of this is very wedding basic. Or wedding focused, but truthfully, like I am actually doing more corporate MC now, because people, like when I'm up there, it's so genuine. People are like, wow, you're just so good with people. And, when we do a lot with like American Cancer Society, and they ask me to MC their event every year. And now, people in organizations across the Midwest are like, you know what, you really connect with the crowd when you're up there, and it's time to ask for that money to fund this need or whatever it is. And it's like, well, because I put myself in that situation, and that's exactly what the love story does. It puts you in that situation and allows yourself to be vulnerable on a microphone. So I think bronze love story is kind of the second step. I would maybe say silver love story. Silver MC. And truthfully, my recommendation is take that one twice.
Yeah.
I've actually taken that one 3 times. So I've taken a total of, I don't think I've hit 13. I know I took 12 Marbecca workshops over my time period.
You're 3 ahead of me.
And yeah. And then again, you've got gold MC. I haven't taken the silver love story. I haven't taken announcers, but I think that's a really good way to get started.
Yeah, the announcer one is really fascinating. I don't remember if you and I have ever talked about it, but for everybody watching this going, I know how to make announcements. Dave, you fool. Why would you go spend a couple of grand going to a workshop travel? Why the hell would you do that? Well, I'll tell you why. Myself and the other 7 students in that workshop, for 2 days straight, did essentially, I mean, this is simplifying it and overly simplifying it, but essentially we did nothing but say people's names, nothing more, their title and their name for 2 days. Now, Jeremy, I'm sure when you introduce a wedding party, you say some other things about them. You say, this person is this person is that. Please tell me welcome X. Well, no, we didn't even get there. All we did for 2 days was said their title, be it mother of the groom, parents of the bride, whatever it might be, and their name. Now, so everybody's scoffing at that. Next time you watch an awards show, next time you watch the late show, whatever it might be, there's a voice at the very start that announces who the guests are going to be that night, who their performers are going to be. That person is being paid many magnitudes of order more money than you are for a wedding. And I would have you ask yourself why. All they're doing is saying people's names. Yeah, you think so? You go through this workshop and you'll find it's unreal. That's cool. The line that I took away from Mark in that was, his goal at the end of the workshop is, I'll ask you, Jeremy, can you say only the titles and names of 20 people in a row and make person number 18 feel just as important as person number 1?
Yeah, that's a great question.
It's not easy.
Hopefully I never have to introduce 18 people, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, it's really hard to keep that energy just as authentic, not over the top, authentic as it was for person number 1, but not to make every one of them sound the same. Yeah, it was really fascinating.
So let me ask you, would you put bronze announcer before gold MC then? Is that how you'd progress that?
I would.
Okay.
I would. I really wish Mark would have had this announcer's workshop available years ago, and I'm sure he wishes the same too. But Mark really, really likes to curate these things quite well, so they take a little while to come out. Yeah, I would dip my toes into bronze MC, bronze love story, and then given the option, I don't know if I'd jump to bronze announcer right away, and maybe I would, just so that you get the basic tenets of all three, and then start leveling up on all of them. I mean, it was really fascinating.
Enough about Mark Farrell.
I've never made so many weird noises with my mouth in 2 days than I did in that workshop. I'll leave it at that.
I don't need to know that. I do not need to know that. Okay, so some other ones that, again, I find valuable. I really enjoyed, and I don't know if they do it anymore, but Liz and Peter Mary, and they used to do a Make It Grand workshop, which I thought was great. And they also had Take Your Stage or Take the Stage. Yeah. I thought those were great because it kind of allows you to do some fun storytelling, kind of break the ice a little bit, and add value to introductions, or maybe it's just the way you introduce the best man for his toast. You know, you kind of have to be in the moment at all times. And I think it's kind of it's not really an improv workshop, but I think if you go in with an improv type of mind, because basically you're going to be improvising when you're writing it. Right. And you have to think, okay, so he does this, this, and this, or the best man was part of this and this, like, oh, this would be funny if I could add this in there. Or this could be really impactful if I add this in. So that was a major one that I really enjoyed. And I know we actually took that one together. Is that correct?
You know, I don't remember all the workshops we've taken together, but I'm sure we did.
Actually, I know we did because I introduced you, and your favorite song was by U2, and Streets Have No Name. Yep.
So good. Yeah. Take me back to the 360 tour. God, that was a good show. Anyway.
So I thought that was one. Again, those are some great workshops that I think add value to performance. Yeah. And the next one I would say, the next one I would probably do in progression would be the entertainment experience with Bill Herman. I took that one twice, and I loved it both times. And the reason I would say wait on that one a little bit, get yourself tuned in, is because now you start looking at every aspect of what you're doing, and you start discovering why you're doing it or how you can make it better, looking at every moment and saying, what can I do different with this? And I think it's a whole different skill than what you learn in Make It Grand and the Marbecca method. It's completely different. But again, I think it expands the possibilities of what you can do for your clients and adds value, which is exactly what our biggest discussion here is. So I thought that would definitely be a great one to look into as well. Anything else performance wise? I mean, there's other workshops that I want to bring up, but they're not really performance based. So
yeah, when it comes to adding performance value, which is the most valuable asset every single one of you watching this has, whether you believe it or not, it's the most valuable asset you have. That would be, I think, a good starter for now.
Yeah. Cool. So like I said, what we're going to talk about in the agenda is performance-based workshops. And then also, how do you run your business successfully? And some of the workshops that I feel are great for people to look into is I've taken Mitch Taylor's Everything workshop. I've taken his Sales of Solutions. I've taken the when he was doing the Jeffrey Gitomer stuff. I took workshop after workshop with him. So Mitch is very sales focused. Yep. And obviously, if you can't make sales, you're not going to be in business. So, and people are like, oh, I can sell a wedding. You can sell a wedding right now, but if you have to charge double your rate, can you still sell that wedding?
Right.
And again, that's why we're leaving. This is how much you should be charging to make a living. That's why we're leaving that towards last, because you have to be able to sell yourself. If you can sell yourself for $800, fantastic. Stay part-time. Yeah. But if you can start selling yourself for $1,600, $3,200, whatever it is, now you can make that living. And that's right. I think that's the important thing to take away. You have to take training, even though you're that great in sales, because I thought I'm great in sales. But once you take those, it makes you that much better.
Yeah, very true. And can I just underscore one thing? I don't want people to get out of order on this. Don't go take sales training if you haven't done the value personal development yet.
Yes.
Right? I mean, there's a bit of a pet peeve of mine, but if you ask most DJs what they need to focus on most of them will tell you sales training.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what's your take?
Your biggest sales pitch is your performance.
There we go. There we go. Every weekend, you're performing in front of 100, 200, 300, 400 people.
Yep.
Most of the selling should be accomplished there.
Exactly. And that's kind of the fun thing. I love getting phone calls the next week or, a week or two later. And they're like, oh, we were just at a wedding that you did, and we'd really like to book you for our wedding. I'm like, great. Do you guys have time to sit down? They're like, no, but if you can just send us the contract. I'm like, okay. And I don't have to have the sales pitch. And that's, to me, that's the best sales pitch ever. Like I said, is what you're doing on the microphone, what you're doing to engage people. And if you're not doing that, then you're missing out on sales opportunities without having to do a sales consultation. So,
and I will be talking about some of this topic at the Dish Talking News DJ convention in February as well. I will be touching on some of this in my presentation there because this is so critical, so critical.
Yeah. The thing that drives me nuts is when DJs have on their website, or they'll have something that says, you want a free sales consultation. You didn't win a free sales consultation. You are basically trying to sell yourself. They didn't win anything. You won if you actually get to sit down with that person and have that consultation as a DJ.
That's basically like screaming to a potential client, hey, I have a sales funnel and you're now in it, and I hope you have a fun ride because I'm going to make you book me.
It's like, oh, and I'll sit down with you at no cost. I guarantee every single DJ is they're not going to say, well, my consultation fee is $200, and then we'll see if you qualify for me to do your wedding. Come on. That's ridiculous.
Right. Okay. So add value, build value, create value.
Yep.
In yourself.
Yep.
And how do you price that?
Well, hold on. There's more. Because there is a marketing aspect. You do have to put your face on your business. You as a single op, it's basically that. But as a multi-op, our strength is our weakest link. And we have to go out there and perform every single time. Mm-hmm. As a business owner, I have to be able to count on my team and my staff and everybody who's behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And having good marketing or having a good way for people to get in touch with you is important, whether that's your website, whether that's your Facebook page, whatever it is. You have to be relevant. If you're not relevant and people see you at a wedding and now they go to search for you and they can't find you anywhere, then you're going to lose that sale as well. So, get yourself whether it's a marketing company to, help you build your website, or, again, make it match who you are. There's DJs in our market, and I mean, they're great. Don't get me wrong. I shouldn't say any of that because I'm not bad mouthing them by any means. Their perception, or people's perception of them, is they're the ones who are going to be, break dancing, and they're the ones who are going to be, out on the dance floor and jumping around with the crowd and, very mitzvah style entertainment. And though their website, their social media, it matches who they are. It matches their profile. Yeah. And that's exactly what it should do. Ours, we try to show, a high-end performance. We try to show a good variety of our entertainers. So it's not just myself, it's everybody. Right. And so, again, we had to put a lot of time and a lot of effort in figuring out what does that look like, because that's what our company looks like. So make sure you understand, your direction and attention to detail. And then the last thing I would do is, kind of set goals for yourself. And have we talked about Traction, the EOS Worldwide at all?
The book?
The book, the process, everything. Okay.
I am completely unfamiliar with it, except by knowing the title.
Okay, so I think this is a great topic in the future. We should have Glenn on. Glenn's actually been kind of my coach for this whole process. We have worked through kind of the beginning steps, but there's so much to this process.
Okay.
And I want to keep digging into it. So I think having him on and kind of telling people exactly what this is and getting him involved in that, I think is going to be very valuable for you and me as well for all of our viewers. So I would definitely want to touch base with that. And really the first steps of EOS is it's basically figuring out your goals, setting your goals for the quarter, your year, your 2-year, your 10-year.
Okay.
And by doing that, what it's done for our company is now we're basically listing all of our processes, everything that we want to accomplish, and then we're putting everybody's name by it. So you're accountable for this, you're accountable for that. And it's a way to make sure that we're going in the direction so we can hit our quarterly goals, we can hit our yearly, our 2-year, and our 10. So that's something that I think people really should look into, especially if you're looking at going full-time. If your full-time goal in 2 years, or if your goal in 2 years is to be full-time, put that on there. What does that look like? How do you get to that process? And how do you achieve that? So again, I think there's a lot of value for people to get out of that as well to help structure and create your business successfully. Find a person that will hold you accountable and make sure that it's feasible. So now, how much do you charge?
$5. $5.
$500. So here's something that this is how we kind of structured. What we did was we looked at our market, and I didn't assume how much people were charging. I didn't call them up and say, hey, how much are you charging? You talk to a lot of people across the country and also in your market, and you kind of understand how much they're charging. You understand what they do. And again, I'm not saying I know exactly how you perform. I'm not talking about any of that.
Right.
But what we do is we now look at, okay, what are they doing? How are they adding value? And what are they charging? What is that worth? And I mean, there's companies in my own market that I've said, you guys got to charge more. Or I can look at companies, and I'm not going to tell them that they're charging too much, but I look at companies, I'm like, yeah, they're charging too much. Just because of what you hear from people. And I mean,
is there such a thing as too much, though? I mean, a company simply goes out of business if they're charging too much, don't they?
That's true. That's a really good point.
Yeah, but carry on.
So again, what we did was we looked at our business expenses. We looked at how do we stay, how do we function. For me as an owner, I have employees. Well, how do we pay those employees? And then how do we make it to show their value in what they're doing for performance? And then how do they get paid? How does the company, basically get paid as well? So what you need to do is, again, you need to figure out your expenses. You need to figure out what it takes for you to survive in your family, to help your family and yourself survive. And you have to figure out the expenses such as insurance and all of that. And then the last thing is, how much do your clients tell you that you're worth? I think that's the big thing, because if your clients say, like you said, if they start saying, you know what, no, I can't spend that much, then it's not that you didn't sell them. It's, maybe you didn't have a good sales pitch, whatever it was. But the biggest thing is you're probably not worth it to them. And if you're not worth it to that person, then you're not worth it to the other person. So what I would recommend is, put your price out there. I mean, I can tell you that, my DJs across the board, I have guys that are at $1,300. That's our lowest package. And then I have about 8 different increments. And if you guys want to go check out my website, we post our prices on our website. We have nothing to hide. We're going to put it all out there, because when people go to search for prices, they want to see prices and not, well, let's set up a meeting. Okay. If they look at our price and say, yeah, you know what, that's valuable to me, then they'll call me. And then I'll have that sales consultation. But we have entertainers at $1,300, $2,000, $2,500, $2,950, and then my personal package is at $4,400. And the reason that, again, I kind of look at the progression of where I've been, when I first started, I was charging under $500, but I was 18 years old. I was actually 16 years old, and under $500 for a 16-year-old, that's pretty good bank.
That's very good bank. Very good. Bank.
So it was like, hey, this is cool. But we're a business now, and we have to start thinking as a business.
Got it. What's that weird noise, by the way, coming from your part of the world?
Oh, we're doing construction in our warehouse. And is it loud? Is it bad?
Got it. Oh, I know everybody else watching is going to probably be asking themselves, so I figured I'd ask for them.
Yeah. So with with business expanding, we have to start expanding within our warehouse because we're running out of warehouse space.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great segue. Yeah. So I'll echo much of what you said. Obviously, I have a lot fewer variables to consider when it comes to the cost of running my company because there's just me. There's some insurance. There's there's my cost of music. There's my cost of association membership, through which I meet a lot of great people who help me out. My costs are fairly basic. Then, of course, there's, per event costs of, the food, the travel, and and all those particulars. But I, really early on, when I was first exposed to the idea, which you mentioned of, finding, what do my past couples feel about my worth? That was really the barometer that I used quite early on to determine where my pricing should sit. So, when I first started, it was, $500-$600, that type of thing. That was 10 years ago. Yeah, that was 10 years ago. It would have been about that. And because that's kind of where everybody was at, right?
Yep.
But then as I started surrounding myself with people who made more than me, who told me I could make more, some of that influence began to rub off on me. So I would say that surrounding yourself with those people is critical. If the people that you have surrounding you are all people making less than you, telling you can't do it, you've got some tough choices to make.
Yep.
You really, really do. And, but yeah, if anybody here is not, this came from Peter or Mark, or I don't recall who, I don't think it really matters, but when I follow up with my couples after the fact, I ask them, what type of value did you get? Did you get less than what you paid for? Did you get what you paid for? Did you get more than what you paid for? Did you get way more than what you paid for? And out of the last 10 years, for probably 8 of those years, 7 or 8 of those years, everybody circled way more than we paid for.
Yeah.
So listen to them.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Raise my rates another few $100, another few $100, and you just keep doing that. I don't care what time of year it is. Don't wait for this arbitrary January 1st. Rip the Band-Aid off. Who cares? On average, I was raising my price 2 to 3 times a year for probably 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
Because rather than raising my price based on randomly chosen dates, I was raising my price based on fact.
Yeah.
So it's your choice. You can be random about it, or you can be deliberate. And I chose to be deliberate based on feedback that my business and my clients were giving me.
And you really, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And I'll just sum up by saying, I had a general awareness of the ceilings, the price ceilings that other people in North America had reached. So I had a general idea of where I wanted to go because of the precedent that all those other people had already set. My first goal was $3,000. I'm like, holy God, if I could do that, that'd be amazing. Well, I hit that a lot sooner than I thought I would.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have had I left it to some arbitrary date once a year that I raised my price on.
Right.
Because that doesn't create the momentum that you need for this.
Right.
Raising 2 or 3 times a year creates momentum. Waiting till January 1st every year, and then, spending the first 2 or 3 months of that new price increase, scared like hell, hoping they're going to book. And then by the time you get going, and you're comfortable, and you're comfortable, and you're comfortable, and you're comfortable, and at some point, the next price increase is going to be scary again.
Yeah.
But if you keep on doing it consistently, you don't have to worry about starting from kind of zero energy-wise ever again.
Right.
And that there.
I gave myself a 10% raise this year. And granted, like, it's not like that's going in my pocket. Basically, as a company, we have to put that in across the board.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where it's like, here's kind of the deciding factor. Here's how I would say, when you hit these points, this is when you need to raise your rate. The first thing is when your clients tell you, like you said. Your second point is when, again, you look at your schedule and you say, well, gosh, I have no weekends off this year. I'm booked every single weekend. Okay. Might be a good indication to raise your rate. And if you say, like I've gone through this, I don't want to be gone every single weekend. I want to spend time with my family. I want to be at the lake. I want to do these things that I should and would be doing if I worked at a, full-time 9-to-5 job. I want to have some weekends off. I'm going to book weekends off for my personal self. And, when you say, well, when I hit 20 weddings this year, I want to do a max of 30. When you hit 20, then raise your rate. Give yourself a 10, 20% raise, whatever it is. And then when you book that 30, give yourself another 10, 20% raise. And just keep moving up until you say, you know what, now I'm comfortable. I'm doing less weddings, but I'm making more. And that's the powerful thing. And that has been one of the best things that I've done as a father, as a husband, and as a business owner, is I'm not burning myself out. I even do that with my guys. I say, how many weddings do you want to do? And if they say, I want to do 20, I want to do 40, whatever it is, I will do my best to get them as many as I can, because that's their goal that they set, and it's going to help my company progress, and we're going to be successful. So that hopefully that kind of answers questions for people. I think this was a fun discussion, because it's always it's that one where you're like, I don't really want to talk about this, because people are always afraid to talk about price.
Yeah, very true. And I guess this feels like a downer ending, but I guess, let's talk about the fact too that, just because somebody auditions for 3 years straight doesn't mean they're going to become a Hollywood actor. This is something that never gets talked about in the industry. There seems to be this unspoken, anybody can do this. And that's been bothering me more and more over the last few years, I'll be honest. I value what we do too much. I value what you do too much, Jeremy, to say that anybody can do this.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have the personality traits and the intelligence to go and be a rocket scientist. Yeah. I'm okay with that.
I never got drafted in the NFL, so we're both
right. Right. I don't have the fortitude, the mental stamina to be a police officer like my wife is.
No.
And I'm okay with that. I guess I'd like, if some of the things that Jeremy and I spoke about end up telling you, because now we're asking you to run your business based on fact, not arbitrary things that you make up in your head. If some of these facts end up indicating some realities to you that might say otherwise, be okay with that. There's this stigma around, oh, I failed. Oh, I hate being told I suck. Tell me I suck. If I suck at something, Jeremy, you're going to be the first to tell me, right?
Absolutely, I will be.
I mean, I am currently looking at just a new project separate from the special events world that I hope might work. But God, if part of it sucks, I really hope somebody tells me, and early on.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste 5 years of my life trying to build this thing, only to discover on my own after the fact that it sucked.
It failed before you started.
Right. So I want people to be okay with that. I'm okay with it.
The thing I want to leave people with is from today's show, if you say, I want to know what it takes, I want to have a one-on-one conversation, my email, feel free to reach out to me on my email, Jeremy, Jeremy @djjer.com. Email me and put the topic or the title, wanting DJ business help, whatever it is. Guy gets so much email, but put something in there so it's not just like, it doesn't just say reaching out or catching up. I get too much junk. Right. And I want to be able to be I don't want to say a mentor, but I want to be able to help people, because I had people who helped me. And if it wasn't for those people, I would still be working full time during the week and having this as my hobby. Yeah. And again, this was the best thing I ever did, is running my business and giving others jobs in my market. So
right. And just be aware, the offer, of course, is the same with me. Please reach out, Dave@specialrequestweddings.com. If you want to find out if this is something that you're able to next level on, I'm not going to tell you if you can or you can't. But my hope is just to orientate you toward the information that will tell you. The information is probably there to tell you.
Yeah.
I'm just going to maybe help you see it, regardless of what it says.
Let us answer some questions for you.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to write your business plan.
Gosh, no.
Well, Dave, this has been great.
Fun.
Again, reach out to both of us, and we wish you the success going into 2020. I think this is our last show before the end of the year. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And this is Jeremy with DJ Jer in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Roar into the 20s. Dave?
Yeah, my best to everybody. I hope 2019, accomplished a few new things for you. If it didn't, let's go into 2020 with renewed vigor to make those things happen. Happy holidays to absolutely everybody, regardless of what you're celebrating at home. Wish you and your family well, and we'll see you fresh and ready to go in the new year in 2020. Thanks so much, everyone.
And we'll see you at the Disc Jockey News show in Vegas.
February 24th to 27th. Cheers, everyone.
See ya.